a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's time for another interview, and I'm very pleased to welcome to my Zoom room, Elder from Lytton, BC, Byron Spinks.
Hi, Nancy. How are you today?
I'm good, and I just want to say thank you for coming into Chilliwack to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I had some business down here anyway, so it's a good time to come down and visit again. Got some friends down here I can visit.
Perfect.
Lots of things to do.
Yeah, perfect. Byron's been on the show before, but this is the first time we've been able to meet in person, which is always, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So last time, the first time you were on the show was to talk about some of the issues that were happening in Lytton with the flood and the fires, some terrible stuff. So I hope that doesn't happen this year.
I'm hoping also, but we're taking a lot of precautions around Lytton locally. Fire prevention, fuel management, and that sort of stuff. So a lot of people are active, and all levels of government, I think, are aware of the potential dangers of the climate change we're experiencing right now. It seems like it's happening all over the country right now.
It's a scary time. It really is, you know, and it's just like, it's hard to get the people that should listen. Anyway, that's another topic, right?
Yep.
Now you're here because you want to talk about the special needs for the Indigenous elders. Is that correct?
Yes. When a disaster happens, it's very important for our local officials or leadership, and support people to be aware of the special needs of elders, especially when they're forced to leave home on a moment's notice, and such as we did in Lytton. Everybody's running for their lives, and we didn't have time to pack anything, just what we had on, and our valuables, our wallet, and our keys and stuff like that. But as elders, I think it's very important to realize that it's a big change that's happening. We're having to move quickly and without any destination in mind on where we can go to at the spur of the moment. And so we're sort of up in the air right on the spur of the moment. And in our case, we were lucky to have some family members close by that we can go to and park our vehicle and be in a safe zone. But many of our elders didn't have that luxury. They were split up into small communities nearby, like Spencer's Bridge and a little bit, and the resources are very limited. Also, I mean, in whole Canyon it's like that. But the people were very accommodating and providing a short-term accommodation for the elders, but it took time for the emergency management to kick in. Seemed like it took forever, but they acted as quickly as possible with the amount of time they had, and the amount of notice they had. So it's but in the meantime, family support is really important. Connectivity is really important for our elders. Being in touch with their family, their children, their grandchildren, so important. Because once you lose contact, it's very hard to maintain a positive outlook on life.
Oh, you're isolated,
it's
right?
Really, we're isolated, and you just have the clothes on your back, and that's about it. And if you're traveling with someone, they're in the same position also.
What happens if you have somebody who doesn't have a vehicle?
We're lucky in our case, family members and people, just neighbors, just came and picked elders up that were on the street. They just parked and we just jumped into the vehicle and on the spur of the moment, and people were out looking, for stranded residents, and a lot of young people fortunately were in town and with the vehicles, and my two sister-in-laws were in the same position. They were walking down the street with no vehicle, and one of our relatives came and stopped them by the truck and just got them into the vehicle in time to get out of town. And my other sister-in-law had a vehicle, but then she got separated from the two other sisters.
Oh my goodness!
Two went to Spencer's Bridge, and one went to Lillwood.
Oh.
There's a disconnect there. So
yeah,
and with no self-service at all to speak of, it was very hard for them to keep in touch and keep a positive outlook, because the only information to read they can receive are from the frontline workers, and that came in sporadically. Not the best way of communicating, but is it require a lot of patience to just wait and hope for the best.
Is this when you said the front line? Are these all Indigenous people, or do you get help from the?
These are people that in the village that fire, the local fire department, the police, healthcare workers, local people that are providing service to the community, and police, RCMP were on hand, and it was fortunate that we did at the time. Our fire happened at between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. People were going into town to do some shopping, and at the end of the day, and we were lucky there's a lot of vehicles around for them to help us.
Right. Now I remember you were saying that you didn't know what happened to your daughter at that time, at first, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see.
My daughter lives on the west side of Lytton, and when she see the smoke coming up, everything went through her mind that because you could see our house up on the hillside above Lytton, and when that went up in flames, she was just terrified and traumatized because we try to keep in contact with her, but cell service went within a half hour, and she got evacuated to Lillooet, and by the time she got evacuated to Lillooet, and we were in Boston Bar, so that's how we connected.
Oh, okay. Now, when you mentioned the cell phone, I was just thinking again. I'm sure not all elders have cell phones.
No, that's right.
So that's another issue for them, right?
Yes.
If they're away from their families and their communities, how do they get in touch with people, or how do people get in touch with them?
Yeah, they relied on relatives, family members that were close at hand, and they were checked on by their respective families.
Okay.
And that was important, and fortunately that happened. And even though we're all separated, there was still a connection there eventually, even though it was maybe 4 or 5 hours later, when things are settled down, and we got the big picture of what happened.
Okay, so there's somebody or some organization keeping track of who's where, who's gone where?
Yeah, Lytton First Nation has emergency plan, and their plan kicked into place, and they have special people trained to establish safety and ensure that everyone is accounted for, number one, and make sure that we're in a safe spot once everybody's accounted for. But that takes time for that to happen. Yeah. And people were asked to call a certain number to I guess confirm that they were safe. Yeah, so
okay.
That was good.
No, if I remember right, did you mention on Messenger to me that you had been at a I don't know if it was a big meeting or a conference or something, or you were going to speak on this matter?
Yes, I've been invited to various gatherings to speak on our experience, especially from an elder's perspective. And
right.
This last week or a week and a half ago, I was at the Stalwell Nation Emergency Management Preparedness workshop, and I was one of the guest speakers, and I relayed my viewpoint on the importance of connecting with elders in a community when disaster evacuation orders in place are ordered, and the importance of support people to become aware of the community that they is serving. Because many of the emergency preparedness people are very experienced, but they're coming from outside, they're sort of parachuted in to help the community.
Oh, okay.
Like Red Cross is one example, and we have different ethnic groups that provide support also, and it's very important for them to get to know the people first before they provide a service, and just to establish a level of trust with them.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I watched these shows called Living Life Below Zero.
Oh yes.
First Nation people, maybe First Alaskans, whatever. And it's really good for people, I think, for non-Indigenous people to watch to see. There's some of them still live the old ways, although it's getting more and more difficult because there's less animals around, less fish, and
a land base really condensing down to a very small land base for them to survive on.
Right, but it's a good way to understand and to really because I from what I see from Indigenous, everybody that I know, Indigenous people, they're so very much community minded, family minded, and caring for each other.
Yes.
I love when somebody goes out hunting. They got a whale, a walrus one time. And by the time they get back to the shore, there was about 3 fishermen. The village, so many villages were there. They bring it in, they cut it up, and everybody was there that gets a piece. You know, and I think, oh my gosh, that's we should, like, if we could all be like that, we certainly have. I know I'm off the topic, but I can't help it because
I mean, that's our lifestyle. That's the way we live, and the values that we have are very important. That keeps us going.
Yes.
The value of good health, happiness, and you know, the generation of family and the generosity we have with each other, and being humble and being forgiving and patient, understanding, and respecting. That's all values that are important to us, and we try to follow this path as best we can, and as elders, and we transfer that knowledge down to the young people also.
Right. Speaking of respect for others, I know Gerald Charlie.
Yes.
And he invited me to a healing ceremony. And if you look over my couch, there's a blanket there.
Oh, yes.
That was his blanket that he gave to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, it made me feel like.
Yeah, that's part of our generosity.
Yeah.
I mean, we respect that we have for people that are that want to learn more about our lifestyle, our history, and part of my job is to do that with Tuckman Village and Boston Mart, and I work there part-time.
Oh, okay.
And we have school tours, and we talk about our health, culture, and our history, and our language, and we do these fun things in a village setting, and by the time the kids leave, they have a glimpse of who we are, and we stir the curiosity in them, because they come back year after year, and some of them have been there for 3 or 4 times, and every time they go there, they learn something new. So that's part of the learning process we have.
This is why I do this. Like, obviously, I don't know just interview Indigenous people, but when I do, I learn so much, and I think it's so important. If we all just if everybody who wasn't First Nation just sat down with somebody and another and listened, we learn.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm promoting with frontline workers to be properly. To take the time to sit down and just for a moment and talk to people, especially when an emergency situation happens and when you're filling out forms and form after form to register, and there'll be some benefits for short-term benefits. We're not used to filling out the forms, as elders, and sometimes it takes patience for the frontline workers to take the time to make sure we get the right information.
Yes. And it's like, listen, all of us, forms are just like, sometimes we have to do them online, which is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do that. I'm struggling right now with one form.
And again, one of the things I think is important, as you said, is like to understand maybe your needs are different than say mine as an Indigenous person, right?
Yes, it's our needs are vary. Depending on their physical capabilities. Some are limited to wheelchairs and walkers, and setting up accommodation is you have to be aware of those situations, and you can't just put an elder into a 3rd floor hotel room.
No one. Because then they can't even get out. And I know it's preferably that they stay with family if possible.
Family members,
right.
And it's been very challenging for our family because we're split up into, we have 2 in Camp Opiate and 1 in Merritt that lives in the Village of Lytton, and they're still being provided for by emergency services. And it's not the best place, but at least you can call home. And the people that are providing the service are very sensitive also to our needs, and they've come bent over backwards. And at Camp Hope especially, they've really helped out our members that were there, and they continue to do that even though there are other needs, other facilities used for other events, and so, but we're still accommodated there in few numbers.
Right, very good, very good. I think we covered everything.
I think so. I mean, it's a big topic, and we can learn from our experience, and we're doing that right now. And I just became elected to Lytton First Nation Council, and I'm a council member, and I was a previous chief, but I reluctantly got back into politics.
Well, congratulations on that.
But we're learning, and hopefully we can do the best job we can in the future. If it happens again, which I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
But it's one of those things that we have to be aware of all times, and we just keep moving, and we look at the positive outlook in life, and and trying to maintain that vision of the future.
Because I was going to end, but I'm just thinking about it took a long time before you got back to Lytton, right? After, right?
It took almost 2 years.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 years in this June, and I just moved back to Lytton 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, and that's a long time to be away from your community.
Yes.
Right?
Your needs are met, but you still don't have home to call.
Yeah.
A home to call.
And even when you're home, there's nothing there that you had from before.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's a
nothing.
temporary trailer.
Yeah.
Until we get a new home built, and we're looking forward to that process.
Oh, it hasn't been built yet.
Not yet. We have a temporary interim accommodation right now with trailers and
Right.
2-bedroom small trailers, and I mean, they're not the travel trailers that you can move around, but there's
They're stationary.
yeah,
Right.
stationary. And so the next planning process will be to sit down with our planners to design a house that will accommodate our needs.
Very good. Anything I can do to help?
Just keep spreading the word.
Okay.
We're willing to share our information with anybody that would like to listen to us, and that's the way we are.
And I like to listen. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate
And
it.
thank you for having me here, Nancy. It's really good. Good to see you again.
Always a
In
pleasure.
person.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. And reach out to, I just can't help say this enough, reach out to an Indigenous community. Go there and talk, go to their.
We have gatherings, community gatherings and traditional and many workshops on health and healing and stuff like that. So that's good.
And your healing ceremonies are so special. They're just so special. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. And when you watch this interview, please share. That would be really nice. Okay, take care, everybody, and peace out.
A sense of community till the wax a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.